Raul's gunmen forced Darius Cole to his knees beside his refrigerated rig while his 16-year-old nephew watched from the loading dock with a pistol at his ribs. Darius looked like what Raul believed he was, a black truck driver, outnumbered, shirt torn, hands empty, and powerless. The dispatcher stood pinned against the office glass. Two drivers lay face down near the scales, and Rico Alvarez asked who should bleed first if Darius refused to unlock the trailer. Raul smiled as though the kneeling had broken him. Then Darius's sleeve slipped from his shoulder and exposed a faded Navy SEAL trident around the words, Breaker 6. Raul's smile vanished. Cesar Prado stepped back. Darius noticed that, a yard tractor aimed at the wrong gate, the blue pallet strap hanging from freight that did not belong, and Malik trying not to look toward Bay 4. Raul's phone vibrated. He read the warning, stared at the tattoo, and ordered Rico to put Malik inside the moving trailer. Darius understood that Raul had not recognized a victim. He had recognized the man he had spent years praying was dead. If you enjoy stories where arrogant criminals discover too late that they chose the wrong victim, leave a like, subscribe to Wrong Victim Stories, and tell us what city or state you are watching from. Now let's go back to the moment they made their first mistake. 6 hours earlier, Darius Cole had been thinking about coffee, not gunmen. The paper cup in his holder had gone cold somewhere east of Las Cruces, and the cab smelled faintly of diesel, peppermint gum, and the cardboard air freshener Malik had bought at a truck stop because he said the old one smelled like a hospital hallway. Darius drove with both hands loose on the wheel, shoulders squared despite the ache that never entirely left his left side. At 42, he had the face of a man who slept when freight schedules allowed and woke before his body was ready. The highway had put silver at his temples. Night roots had carved patience into him. Most people saw the faded ball cap, the gray work shirt, and a refrigerated trailer with more than 800,000 miles behind it. That was exactly how Darius preferred to be seen. Malik sat in the passenger seat with one sneaker on the dash until Darius glanced over. The boy lowered it without being told. He was 16, long-limbed, curious, and determined to treat summer on the road as an adventure even after learning that most of trucking was waiting, paperwork, and trying to find decent food after midnight. His mother, Darius's older sister Renee, had sent him along because Malik had been drifting through June with too much energy and too few plans. She said Darius could teach him discipline. Darius had said highways did not teach discipline. They only exposed whether a person had any. Renee sent the boy anyway. "You awake?" Darius asked. "I've been awake." "You were snoring at the checkpoint." "I was thinking loud." Darius almost smiled. "Check the temperature." Malik tapped the reefer monitor mounted near the dash. 36, steady. "Seal number?" Malik read it from the clipboard. Darius made him compare it to the dispatch message. The numbers matched. The load was legitimate produce and packaged dairy bound for a regional distribution center north of Phoenix. Nothing about it should have required an unscheduled stop outside El Paso. But at 9:47 p.m., a broker named Glenn Porter had called and said the consignee needed a cross-dock verification at Mesa Verde Freight Yard. Porter had the right load number, the right seal number, and the irritated tone of a man who expected drivers to obey because delays cost everyone money. Darius had hauled through Mesa Verde twice. It was a small independent yard west of the city, mostly overflow transfers and after-hour staging. It was not where he wanted to spend an hour, but the dispatch change appeared in the carrier portal 3 minutes after the call. "Could be real," Malik had said. "Could be," Darius answered. That was not agreement. It was a reminder that uncertainty had weight. He had called his company's night desk. The regular dispatcher was off, and a woman named Lena Ortiz answered. She sounded busy but competent. She confirmed the change had come through a broker credential the system recognized. Darius asked her to note the time and keep the original route active until he checked in. Lena paused, then said she would. She did not ask why. Good dispatchers understood that veteran drivers sometimes felt a problem before they could name it. Mesa Verde sat behind a frontage road lined with repair shops and fenced equipment lots. The sign was sun-faded, the office low and rectangular, the yard lights harsh enough to flatten every shadow. 3 rigs were already parked near the scale house. A yard tractor moved slowly between bays, its amber beacon turning. Nothing looked immediately wrong. Darius rolled to the gate and stopped at the intercom. A man in a reflective vest waved him through from the office door before anyone checked his paperwork. That was the first thing. The second was the gate camera. It pointed at the pavement instead of the driver's window. The third was a black pickup parked behind the office with no company markings and a clean tailgate on a road that covered everything in dust. Darius did not announce any of it. He drove at walking speed, watching mirrors and keeping his breathing even. The yard had 2 vehicle exits, the main gate behind him and an older service gate along the east fence. A line of empty chassis narrowed the east lane, but it was passable. The yard tractor crossed in front of him and then stopped at an angle that looked careless. Darius saw it was not. One more trailer in the wrong place would close that lane completely. "Why are we going so slow?" Malik asked. "Because rushing only helps the person who wants you confused." Malik looked through the windshield, taking the sentence seriously. Darius wished he had made it sound casual. Lena met them at the office window. She was in her 30s, hair pulled back, headset hanging around her neck. The look she gave Darius was controlled but strained. A man stood behind her wearing a white shirt with the sleeves rolled up. Glenn Porter. Darius recognized him from a profile photo attached to an old rate confirmation, though the photo had been 10 pounds and several bad decisions ago. "Driver Cole," Glenn said too brightly. "Sorry about the extra stop. Quick verification, then you're rolling." Darius passed his documents through the slot but kept his hand on them. "Who requested it?" "Receiver." "Name?" Glenn's smile stayed in place. His eyes moved toward the black pickup. "Warehouse side handles that." Lena said, "They want you at Bay 3. Darius looked at her. She held his gaze for half a second, then glanced downward. On the counter beside her hand was a sticky note with one word written in block letters. "Wait." Glenn slid the paperwork out of Darius's fingers. "Bay 3. Darius returned to the cab. Malik had been watching the office through the side mirror. "That guy's lying," he said. "Maybe. You always say maybe when you mean yes. I say maybe when saying yes doesn't improve the situation." They backed toward Bay 3. Darius took his time, stopping once to straighten even though he did not need to. That gave him a full view of Bay 4. A pallet jack stood half inside the darkness. 2 men were moving a shrink-wrapped stack from an unmarked box truck toward a refrigerated trailer parked nose out. The stack carried ordinary produce labels, but the wrap had been cut and redone. Around the lower tier was a bright blue pallet strap, the kind used by a different shipper than the one printed on the cases. Malik leaned forward. "Uncle D." "I see it." One of the men looked toward the cab. Darius shifted into reverse and finished backing. He wanted Malik to look away, but telling him would make the movement obvious. So he asked, "Temperature?" Malik understood. He looked down at the monitor. "Still 36. The man at Bay 4 kept watching until the trailer blocked his view. Darius set the brake but left the engine running. "Stay in the cab. You're getting out." "I'm checking the seal with the dock clerk." "What if—" "Door locked. Head down. Call your mother if I tell you to." Malik's face changed. The adventure left it. "Is this bad?" Darius looked at him. Lying would only make the boy doubt his instincts later. "It isn't right." He stepped down. The night air smelled of hot rubber and old oil. Lena came from the office carrying a clipboard. Glenn followed at a distance, speaking into his phone. 2 drivers stood near the vending machines, one older man with a red cap and another in coveralls. They had the restless posture of people waiting for someone else's problem to release them. Lena reached Darius and kept her voice low. I didn't authorize the change. Porter logged in from my terminal while I was outside. Can you reopen the gate? It isn't closed. Darius looked toward the entrance. A dark SUV rolled through and stopped sideways across it. 3 men got out. No one rushed. That made the threat cleaner. Lena's breath caught. Go inside, Darius said. Don't run. The first man was broad, late 30s, close-cropped hair, heavy watch, dark overshirt despite the heat. Raul Vega moved like a person accustomed to rooms becoming quiet before he spoke. Rico Alvarez came beside him with nervous aggression in every step. Cesar Prado remained near the SUV, looking at the trucks in the sky as if delay itself might attack him. Glenn spread his hands. Raul, I told you I had it handled. Raul's eyes went past him to Darius's trailer. You told me it was already transferred. It was supposed to be. You used that phrase on the phone. I did not like it then either. Darius heard the exchange and understood 2 things. Glenn was not Raul's equal, and Raul had arrived because something had gone missing inside a plan that was already late. Rico walked toward Darius. Keys. Darius did not move. This is sealed freight. Rico laughed once. Keys. Trailer opens with the receiver present and the seal recorded. Rico looked back at Raul as if asking permission to enjoy himself. Raul gave the smallest nod. Rico drove a fist into Darius's stomach. The blow folded him enough to sell the effect, without giving Rico the angle for another clean strike. Pain flashed across the old damage near his ribs. Darius let one knee touch the pavement, then rose slowly, breathing through his nose. Malik struck the passenger window from inside the cab. Rico looked up. Who's the kid? My nephew. Bring him out. Darius's voice hardened by half a degree. He stays. That was the wrong answer for a man like Rico. He climbed the steps, smashed the window with the butt of his pistol, and unlocked the door through the broken glass. Malik fought when Rico dragged him out. He got one elbow free and nearly slipped away, but Caesar caught him at the bottom of the steps. Darius did not charge. Every part of him wanted to, and that was precisely why he did not. Rico was waiting for an excuse to fire. Raul was watching to see whether Darius had one move or many. Easy, Darius told Malik. Don't tell me easy, Malik snapped, frightened and furious. Look at me. Malik did. Breathe. The boy's chest slowed. Not enough, but some. Raul studied Darius. You teach him obedience? I teach him not to panic. Same thing, tonight. The 2 other drivers had started toward the office. Another gunman stepped from behind the black pickup and forced them face down near the scale. Lena backed inside, but Glenn grabbed her arm and pulled her out again. You said no witnesses in the yard, Raul told him. They were supposed to be gone. You say supposed too often. Raul took Darius's keys, then nodded toward the trailer. Open it. Darius looked at Glenn. You break that seal without receiver authorization, the system flags it. Glenn said, I can fix the system. The reefer records every door event. I can fix that too. Darius let the silence grow. Glenn avoided his eyes. He had access to paperwork, but not the equipment knowledge he claimed. Raul noticed the hesitation. Open it, Raul repeated. Darius walked toward the rear doors with Rico beside him, and Malik held by Cesar 10 yards away. He used the walk to study the yard. The SUV blocked the main gate. The yard tractor still obstructed the east lane, but its engine was running. One parked rig near bay, one belonged to the older driver in the red cap. Another at the fuel island had airlines connected and headlights off. A row of refrigerated trailers formed a corridor between bays 2 and 5. Cameras covered the gate and office, but not the narrow lane behind the cold storage building. Above the office, a windsock hung almost still. Sound would carry. At the rear of his trailer, Darius touched the numbered seal. "This seal matches my manifest." Raul said, "Then the thing I want is inside. Or your broker switched the wrong load." Glenn's face tightened. Rico struck Darius across the back of the head. White sparks passed through his vision. Raul did not look at Rico. "Why would you say that?" Darius turned enough to see Bay 4. The blue strap was gone from the open floor. "Because he brought you here instead of telling you where the transfer went." Glenn stepped forward. "He's stalling." "Yes," Darius said. The honesty unsettled all of them except Raul. "Why?" Raul asked. "Because my nephew is here." For a moment, Raul's expression almost resembled respect. Then it closed. "Open the door." Darius broke the seal only after speaking the number aloud, making Lena hear it. She understood and repeated it as if checking paperwork. That preserved a witness to the original seal. Glenn shot her a warning look. The door swung open. Cold air rolled over the concrete. Inside were stacked cases exactly as the manifest described. Raul climbed onto the bumper and cut one section of shrink wrap. Dairy cartons. He opened another. Produce. His control thinned. "Where is it?" he asked Glenn. Glenn looked into the trailer as though the missing cargo might apologize and appear. The pallet was assigned to this load. "Assigned by whom?" "You know by whom." Raul grabbed Glenn by the throat and pinned him against the door. "I know who promised me. I am asking who touched it." Malik's eyes moved just once toward Bay 4. Caesar felt it. The kid saw something. Darius stepped between Caesar's line of sight and Malik. Rico shoved him aside, but the movement confirmed the suspicion. Raul released Glenn. "Bring the boy." Caesar pushed Malik forward. The boy's jaw was tight enough to shake. "What did you see?" Raul asked. "Nothing." Rico pressed the pistol against Malik's side. "Try again." Darius said, "He saw men working. It's a freight yard." Raul looked from uncle to nephew. "And you saw more." Darius gave him no answer. That was when the humiliation became deliberate. Raul understood Darius's calm was holding the civilians together. Breaking it would make everyone easier to control. He ordered Rico to put Darius on his knees in the open, where Malik, Lena, Glenn, and the drivers could watch. Rico kicked the back of Darius's leg. Darius went down without fighting the motion. Oil stained the concrete beneath him. Raul told Malik to look. "This is what strength becomes when it has no gun," Raul said. Darius kept his eyes on Malik. "Breathe." Rico ripped open the top of Darius's work shirt. Buttons scattered under the trailer. He mocked the old scars on Darius's side and asked whether long-haul driving had made him soft. Then he pulled the torn fabric down over Darius's shoulder. The tattoo appeared. Time changed around Raul. It was only faded ink to Lena and the other drivers. A trident, dark lines worn gray, and the call sign Breaker 6 curved beneath it. But Raul stopped smiling so completely that Rico looked at him for instruction. Caesar's grip loosened on Malik's arm. Glenn's face became blank with confusion. Raul stepped closer. "Where did you get that?" Darius's breathing stayed slow. "A long time ago." "That is not an answer." "It is the one you get." Rico raised his pistol, but Raul caught his wrist before he could strike. The sudden restraint frightened Cesar more than violence would have. "Breaker 6, Raul said quietly. Darius heard the name carried in Raul's voice with an old memory attached. Not rumor. Not a story passed through strangers. Recognition. Caesar whispered, "No." Raul turned on him. "Be quiet." But Caesar was staring at the trident. My uncle talked about that call sign, the Coast House, before dawn. Rico looked between them. What are you talking about? No one answered him. Darius lowered his gaze, not in submission, but to hide the fact that a door inside him had opened. Salt water. A dark compound near a mangrove coast. Eli Turner's hand on his shoulder. A witness too frightened to stand. Muzzle flashes from a balcony. The weight of a teammate who should have walked out under his own power. Darius had spent years learning how to close that door before memory crossed the threshold. The ink on his shoulder had just kicked it wide. Raul crouched in front of him. My brother lost everything because of a team with that name. Darius met his eyes. Your brother lost a witness. Raul's face went still. Glenn broke the silence. This is coincidence. He is a driver. Raul glanced at him. You brought him. I brought the load. You brought a man wearing the name that buried my brother's root. He used it. My reefer is losing cold with the doors open, Darius said. Rico stared. You care about yogurt right now. I care about the alarm that goes to dispatch when temperature rises. Glenn said too quickly, Close it. Raul looked at him again. Darius had offered a simple problem, and Glenn had revealed urgency. Why? Raul asked. Because we don't need more alerts. You said you could fix the system. I can, but not if... Raul slapped him hard enough to split his lip. Then stop telling me what you can do and show me what you did. Raul pulled out his phone and called someone. He spoke in short, controlled phrases, then listened. Darius watched his eyes. The answer worsened the situation. Raul looked toward Bay 4. Move the box truck, he ordered. Cesar said, the east lane is blocked. Then unblock it. Darius looked at Lena. Her eyes followed his for only a second. She understood the machine, but not the plan. That was enough for now. Raul stood. Put the driver in the office. Keep the boy separate. No, Darius said. Rico grinned, relieved to hear defiance he understood. No. He stays where I can see him. Raul turned back. You think the tattoo gives you authority? No, I think hurting him removes the only reason I'm cooperating. Rico pressed the pistol to Darius's temple. You are not cooperating. Darius looked at Raul, not Rico. Then why is your missing freight still here? Raul's eyes narrowed. Darius continued. The blue strap was around a pallet at Bay 4. Wrong shipper color. Cut wrap. Fresh scrape on the pallet jack. Somebody switched after check-in, and the driver who moved it hasn't left because the east gate was blocked before you arrived. Glenn said, he's guessing. Lena looked toward the office floor. A wet black streak from the pallet jack's wheel led behind the building. Raul saw it too. The balance shifted again. Show me, Raul said. Darius rose from his knees slowly. Rico wanted to stop him, but Raul lifted one finger. Darius pulled his torn shirt closed and walked toward Bay 4 with Malik beside Caesar and the others held in the open. He did not feel powerful. His ribs hurt. Blood warmed the back of his neck. Eli's last night kept trying to replace the freight yard in his vision, but the old discipline was returning in pieces. Identify the living. Identify the exits. Identify the person most likely to act without permission. Identify the evidence that survives every lie. And the blue strap was not just a clue. It was a timeline. Behind Bay 4, the cold storage building created a narrow service lane between cinder block wall and perimeter fence. The unmarked box truck sat halfway down it with its rear door closed. Fresh wheel marks ran from the dock to the truck, but the marks did not stop there. They continued toward a white refrigerated trailer parked beyond the building. One Darius had noticed only as a nose and mirror through the gap. Raul ordered Glenn to open the box truck. It held empty moving blankets, a broken hand jack, and strips of clear wrap. No pallet. You said it was transferred here, Raul said. It was. Glenn pointed at the white trailer. Then Thomas must have moved it again. Who is Thomas? Lena asked. Glenn looked at her with hatred because she had made him answer in front of everyone. A subcontractor. There is no Thomas on tonight's gate log, she said. Rico swung toward her. Nobody asked you. Darius said, the gate camera is pointed down. Thomas never needed a log. Raul stared at Glenn. You blinded the camera. For the transfer. And forgot to tell me the transfer changed. Glenn wiped blood from his lip. I was fixing it. Malik made a small sound. Darius looked at him. The boy's eyes were on the white trailer, but not its doors. He was watching the landing gear. A torn piece of blue strap had caught around the crank handle and fluttered in the exhaust from a nearby unit. Raul ordered Caesar to inspect the white trailer. Caesar hesitated. It isn't connected to a tractor. Open it. The seal. Open it. Caesar walked toward the rear doors, but Darius stopped. Photograph the seal first. Rico shoved him. You giving orders now? Darius staggered, caught himself against the wall, and looked at Raul. If that is your load, the seal tells you who placed it. If it is not, breaking it makes another alarm. Raul considered him for a moment, then told Cesar to photograph it. Glenn muttered that there was no need. Raul heard him. What number should be there? Raul asked. Glenn named one. Cesar read a different number from the seal. The silence that followed was smaller than the tattoo silence, but just as dangerous. Glenn said, Thomas changed it. Raul took Glenn's phone and handed it to Rico. Find Thomas. Rico scrolled. No Thomas. He uses another name. Which name? Glenn did not answer fast enough. Caesar cut the seal and opened the white trailer. Cold vapor breathed out. Inside, beneath ordinary cases, one pallet was wrapped differently. A blue strap crossed the lower tier. Malik's shoulders tightened. Raul saw it this time. The boy knew, he said. Rico grabbed Malik by the collar and pulled him forward. What else did you see? Malik looked at Darius. Darius gave him the same calm expression he had used when teaching him to merge a 40-foot trailer into fast traffic. No hurry, no shame. One decision at a time. Malik said, I saw Mr. Porter tell the forklift guy to move it before you got here. Glenn lunged toward him. Rico caught Glenn with a forearm across the chest. Raul asked, where was it moved from? Malik swallowed. From our side of Bay 3, but it never came out of our trailer. It was on the floor when we backed in. Darius said, he planned to report my seal broken after I left. Your pallet would vanish, and the carrier record would say I took it. Glenn shook his head. No. You had my load assignment changed. You put me at Bay 3. You positioned the pallet where the dock camera would catch my trailer behind it. Then you moved the real freight to a clean trailer. Raul's gaze settled on Glenn with terrible patience. Why steal from me and frame him? I wasn't stealing. I was protecting the route. From whom? Glenn looked at Darius's tattoo. Raul's phone rang again. He answered. This time the voice on the other end spoke long enough for Darius to hear only a faint rasp. Raul's eyes stayed on him. When the call ended, Raul asked, Did you choose this load? No, Darius said. Did anyone tell you to come here? Your broker. Before him? No. Raul stepped close enough for Darius to smell mint and cigarette smoke. My brother received a warning 12 years ago. A witness had been moved from a coastal house. The men who took him left 6 words on a radio channel. Breaker 6 has the package. Do you remember? Darius remembered every syllable. He also remembered Eli breathing beside him on the extraction boat, blood dark on his vest, saying they had the package but not all their people. He remembered ordering the boat forward because the witness was alive and the shoreline was closing. He remembered Eli's hand slipping from his grip when the medic pulled him away. "I remember the witness," Darius said. Raul's control cracked at the edge. "His testimony destroyed my brother." "Your brother built what destroyed him." Lena spoke from behind them. "Temperature alarm." Everyone turned. A warning light blinked on the white trailer's reefer panel. The door had been open too long. Darius said, "Close it, or the unit calls home." Glenn snapped, "It doesn't call anyone. That trailer is offline." Lena looked at the unit. "No, it isn't." Raul ordered the doors closed. Rico shoved Malik aside to help Cesar. In that instant, Malik bent, picked up the torn piece of blue strap from the landing gear, and tucked it inside his sock. Darius saw. No one else did. The boy was terrified and still thinking. Raul made a new decision. "We move the trailer now." "It has no tractor," Caesar said. "Use the drivers." Darius answered before Glenn could. "My tractor is paired to my reefer. You connect that trailer. The fleet system records the mismatch." "Everything records something with you," Rico said. "That is freight." Raul studied him. "Then you will drive." Darius shook his head. "Not with Malik in your hands." Rico struck him in the ribs where the old injury lived. Darius dropped against the trailer, unable to hide the pain this time. The yard narrowed to concrete, metal, and breath. Eli's voice came from 12 years away. "Pain is information, Cole. Don't let it become command." Darius straightened slowly. Raul had noticed more than the weakness. When the torn shirt shifted, another part of the tattoo showed beneath the trident. A small broken line, almost a wave, and 6 tiny marks. The insignia was not official decoration. It had been designed by the rescue element after the coastal operation. 6 men entered the compound. 5 returned alive. The broken line was Eli. "You left the teams after that night," Raul said. Darius did not ask how he knew. "My brother kept files," Raul continued. "Names, faces, families. He believed fear should have a long memory." "Your brother is dead." "Yes, but I inherited his memory." Darius looked toward Malik. "Then you know what happened to people who touched that witness." Raul's eyes hardened. "I know one man escaped consequences by becoming a truck driver." The sentence struck closer than Raul understood. Darius had not left because he feared consequences. He had left because he could no longer enter a room without counting who might not leave it. He had spent months in rehabilitation, then more months waking at the sound of water against a hull that was not there. He had ignored calls from teammates. He had attended Eli Turner's funeral and stood so still that Eli's mother finally touched his face and asked whether anyone had remembered to bring Darius home too. Now Malik stared at it, while Raul recited pieces of a life Darius had hidden. "You were a SEAL?" Malik asked. Darius hated that the boy sounded betrayed. "Later," he said. Rico laughed. "There might not be a later." Darius looked at him. "There will be for the boy." Something in the way he said it made Rico's laugh stop. Raul pointed toward the yard tractor. "Move it. Clear the east gate. Then hook Cole's tractor to the white trailer." Caesar obeyed, but his hands shook as he climbed into the tractor. Darius saw the CB microphone hanging beside the seat. The yard channel would be short range, but many tractors carried dual units that could reach the highway depending on settings. He needed a reason to get near it. He created one by looking at the white trailer's tires. "Right rear is low." Caesar stopped. Rico said, "What?" "Loaded trailer, low tire, narrow service lane. It rolls wrong. You lose the axle before the gate." "Check it." Raul ordered Caesar. Malik shifted beside Rico and said, I can check the gauge in our cab. Rico pulled him back. You can stand still. Darius said, Gauge is in the side box, not the cab. Rico looked toward the tractor. Where? Driver's side, second compartment. Rico marched Darius toward it. That was enough. The yard tractor's open cab sat 10 feet away. As Darius opened the side box, he saw Lena move behind Rico, pretending to retrieve a dropped clipboard. Her hand reached into the tractor and turned the CB volume up. Static breathed into the yard. Rico spun. What did you do? Lena held up the clipboard. Nothing. Caesar shut off the radio, but not before Darius heard a distant voice call for eastbound traffic near mile marker 17. Highway listeners were in range. He took out the tire gauge and handed it to Rico. You wanted it. Rico did not know he had just confirmed the radio could reach beyond the fence. Darius did. Put them behind the concrete barriers, Darius said. If Caesar swings wide, he crushes them before anyone gets what they want. Caesar shouted from the cab. He's right. Raul looked up sharply. Caesar lowered his eyes. The hostages were moved behind a row of waist-high barriers near the scale house. It looked like a concession to safety. In reality, it took Lena and the drivers out of Rico's easiest line of fire and placed them closer to the office's rear door. Darius noted the change, then gave Raul nothing to suggest it mattered. Raul told Glenn to get the key. Glenn patted his pockets, then said, Tomas had it. Rico swore. Raul stared at Glenn for a long moment. Darius said, Bolt cutters in the maintenance cage. Lena looked at him. The maintenance cage was beside the office rear door. Sending someone there would create movement near the hostages. Raul sent Rico. When they move you, stay left of the barriers. Malik whispered, Why? Because I said. You don't get to do that now. The anger in the boy's voice was dangerous, but also honest. Darius kept his face still. You're right. Stay left because the office door opens that way. The trailer will move on the other side, and Lena can reach you first. Malik absorbed it. Okay. Rico returned with the cutters. As he passed the yard tractor, Darius asked Raul, You want the trailer out without every driver on the interstate hearing about a hijacking? Raul said, You will not touch a radio. Then tell Cesar to use standard yard callouts. Truckers hear chaos. They call police. They hear a transfer. They keep driving. Raul considered it. He did not trust Darius, but he trusted public indifference. Caesar, use the radio. Make it ordinary. Caesar climbed into Darius's tractor and keyed the CB. Mesa Verde yard move. East service lane. Keep clear. Darius listened to the phrasing. It was stiff. Anyone familiar with the yard would know something was off, but he needed more than suspicion. He needed a phrase Mara Keene might hear. Trooper Mara Keene worked commercial enforcement on the West El Paso corridor. Darius had met her 3 times over 4 years, once during a brake inspection, once when she helped a driver having chest pain, and once at a diner after a sandstorm shut the interstate. She was practical, direct, and old enough to distrust drama. During the sandstorm, Darius had told her about a convoy phrase used by military-trained drivers when a radio channel was monitored. Breaker lost his 6th wheel. It sounded like nonsense to most listeners, and like equipment trouble to anyone half listening. To people who knew the context, it meant a protected person was under coercion, and movement could not be stopped openly. He had never expected to use it. Raul ordered Darius into the passenger side of his own tractor, while Caesar took the wheel. Rico brought Malik and shoved him onto the sleeper bunk. Raul climbed onto the step and stood in the open doorway. You will guide us through the service road, Raul said. No tricks. Darius looked at the CB. Caesar should call the turn. Blind corner. Caesar knew what Raul did not. Breaker 6 was not simply a name. It was the call sign attached to the destroyed operation. He stared straight ahead. Raul said, "Call it." Caesar keyed the microphone. "Mesa Verde move. White reefer coming through East Lane." Darius interrupted, sounding irritated rather than urgent. "Tell them the sixth wheel drags. If somebody crowds us, we'll bind the turn." Caesar's hand froze on the microphone. Raul watched him. "Say it." Caesar swallowed. "Breaker says the sixth wheel drags. Give us room." Static answered. Then a trucker somewhere on the frontage road said, "Copy. Mesa Verde. Staying clear." Darius could not know whether Mara heard. He did know the phrase had escaped the yard. Raul leaned closer. "What did you just do?" "Kept a truck from crowding your turn." Caesar whispered. "He used the name." Rico frowned. "What name?" "The call sign." Raul grabbed Darius by the collar. "Was that a warning?" Darius looked at the road ahead. "You told him to make it ordinary." Caesar's fear became contagious. "We should leave him. Take the trailer and go." "You cannot move the trailer without him," Raul said. "We can. He knows every record we create. He knows the route. He knows what the boy saw." Rico said, "Then kill him." "No." Caesar answered too fast. Everyone looked at him. Caesar's voice fell. "My uncle said the men from the coast never came alone." Darius finally turned toward him. "Your uncle was wrong." On the highway, 12 miles east, Mara Keene heard the phrase through the speaker in her patrol unit while finishing a commercial stop. She recognized Darius's voice only as a rough undertone beneath Caesar's transmission, but she recognized the wording immediately. "Breaker lost his sixth wheel" had been the original phrase. "Breaker says the sixth wheel drags" was close enough to be intentional and wrong enough to signal coercion. She did not turn on lights. She did not announce a response over open radio. She called dispatch on a secure channel and asked for the ownership, active leases, and recent calls associated with Mesa Verde Freight Yard. Then she requested a quiet supervisor response and units to stage beyond direct view. "Possible hijacking," dispatch asked. "Possible hostages," Mara said. "No approach until we know where they are." Back at the yard, Raul took every phone. Lena's had no signal because Glenn had disconnected the office network and jammed the local booster. The drivers' phones were locked. Malik's phone had cracked when Rico pulled him from the cab. Darius's remained in the tractor, mounted near the dash, but Raul removed it and crushed it under his boot. "You are making time for someone," Raul said. Darius answered, "Everyone makes time. Most people waste it." He ordered Darius back onto his knees. This time Darius resisted just enough to make Rico work. Not to win. Not to trigger gunfire. He forced Rico to use both hands, to turn his body, to look away from Malik. During that second, Malik slid the strip of blue pallet strap from his sock to Lena behind the barrier. She tucked it beneath her clipboard. Darius saw the transfer in the reflection of the office glass. Rico kicked him down. "Still think you're in charge?" Darius tasted blood. "No." "Then say it." "I think you're the man Raul sends for tools." Rico's face changed. Raul said, "Enough." Glenn said, "We need to erase the load records before the telemetry hits." Raul asked, "How?" "Office terminal. I can change the arrival. Show Cole never came. Assign the white trailer to a different carrier." Lena said, "The audit log will show your credential." "I'll use yours." She stared at him. "That is why you kept me here." Glenn's silence confirmed it. Raul pointed to the office. "Do it." Darius rose halfway. Rico pushed him down. "Let her go with him," Darius said. Raul laughed without humor. "Why would I?" Because he does not know the yard system. He already used her terminal wrong once. You want records erased. She is the only reason he might succeed. Lena looked at Darius sharply. He was helping Glenn gain access. But Darius had seen the office earlier. The terminal faced the front window. Beneath the desk was a hardwired panic switch that likely went nowhere with the network disconnected. More important, the printer beside it produced paper gate logs automatically at midnight. It was 11:38. Glenn could alter screens, but if Lena delayed him 22 minutes, the local printer might preserve the original entries. Raul sent them both inside with a gunman stationed at the door. Lena understood only that Darius wanted her near the system. She would have to discover the rest herself. Raul walked around Darius slowly. My brother said Breaker 6 was the one who carried the witness through the south wall. Darius said nothing. He said another man stayed behind. The yard disappeared for half a breath. Eli on the stairwell. Eli firing toward the roof. Eli saying, "Move, Cole, I have it." Darius had moved because the witness was wounded and the exit window was closing. He had returned 37 seconds later. 37 seconds was enough to turn a living teammate into a dying one. Raul saw the memory land. There. That is the man I expected, not the statue. Darius lifted his eyes. You do not know that man. I know guilt. You know how to use it. Same thing. No. Raul leaned down. Tell me the name of the man who stayed. Darius's jaw tightened. Your tattoo marks him, doesn't it? Malik looked from the broken line in the ink to Darius's face. Raul smiled again, but carefully now. Eli Turner. Darius moved before thought. He rose off his knees and struck Raul's wrist away from Malik. Not a wild attack, only a sudden displacement that put Darius between the boss and the boy. Rico's pistol snapped toward his chest. Caesar shouted. The gunman at the office door turned. For one suspended second, the whole yard leaned toward violence. Darius stopped with his hands open. Raul looked at his empty wrist, then at Darius. There he is. It almost had. Malik whispered, Uncle D. Darius stepped back. I'm here. Raul's phone regained one bar of service. A message arrived. He read it and turned toward Glenn in the office. What is it? Caesar asked. Raul did not answer. He walked inside and dragged Glenn out by the collar. The lease trailer sent an unauthorized movement alert, Raul said. The owner called state police. Glenn went pale. We haven't moved it. The door event was enough. Raul looked at the yard, the hostages, the white trailer, and the service gate. His original plan had died. What came next would be faster and less controlled. Put the pallet in Cole's trailer, he ordered. We leave through the main gate. His tractor, his manifest, his nephew in the sleeper. If police stop us, the boy dies first. Glenn said, the seal is already broken. Then make a new one. Lena said, the numbers will not match. Raul turned toward her. Then you will tell anyone who asks that they do. Rico grabbed Malik and pressed the pistol beneath his jaw. He can make her honest. Darius saw Malik's fear finally breach his control. The boy's knees bent. Rico hauled him upright. Every instinct Darius had set act now. The distance was short. Rico's attention was divided. Caesar stood too close to the trailer. Raul's hands were occupied with the phone, but the other drivers were exposed. Lena had a gunman at her back, and any uncontrolled move could begin with Malik dying. Rescue was not about the first available opening. It was about the first opening that did not spend an innocent life. Darius lowered his hands. Raul mistook restraint for surrender. Good, he said. Now you understand. He understood something, but it was not what Raul thought. The yard was no longer a place where he had been trapped. It was a system, and every system had a rhythm. Trucks moved in sequences. Air pressure built before brakes released. Reefer units cycled. Gate arms rose on timers. Yard lights were divided into electrical zones. Printers produced records. Drivers responded to ordinary signals even under stress. Raul could point guns at people, but he could not stop the yard from being a yard. Darius began turning that rhythm against him. Raul divided the work. Caesar would bring Darius's tractor around. Rico would keep Malik. The fourth gunman would hold Lena and the drivers. Glenn would produce a replacement seal and alter whatever records he still could. Raul would supervise the pallet transfer himself. Caesar climbed into Darius's tractor and started forward. The broken passenger window glittered under the yard lights. As the rig passed the office, Darius raised his voice. "Air pressure is low. Let it build before you turn." Caesar checked the gauges automatically. Raul heard only a driver's caution. Mara Keene, now parked beyond the equipment lot with 2 state units and a federal task force supervisor on the way, heard the open CB channel come alive in Darius's cab. The microphone had been left keyed against its bracket when Caesar crushed it into place with his elbow. Through static came Darius's voice, calm and clear enough to matter. "Main gate blocked by black SUV. East service gate open but narrow. Civilians behind scale barriers. White reefer at Bay 4. No lights." Raul heard the radio hiss from the tractor and spun. "Turn that off." Caesar slapped at the controls. The transmission ended, but the essentials had escaped. Raul crossed the yard and struck Darius with the back of his hand. "You said no tricks." "I said the pressure was low. The radio was open. Your driver leaned on it." Caesar looked sick. Rico shouted that Darius had planned it. Raul's attention split towards Caesar, and Darius used the moment to look at Lena. Midnight arrived. Inside the office, the printer woke with a mechanical hum. Glenn lunged through the door. Lena stepped into his path. He shoved her aside, tore the first page from the output tray, and reached for the second. The older driver in the red cab moved from behind the barrier and hooked Glenn's ankle with his boot. Glenn fell against the desk. The gunman guarding them swung his weapon toward the driver. Darius shouted, "Trailer moving!" It was not, but the warning triggered every freight yard reflex at once. The gunman turned toward the lane. Rico pulled Malik backward. Caesar stomped the tractor brake. Raul looked at the white trailer. In that fractured second, Lena snatched the printed gate log and slid it beneath the base of the copier. Then, the moment closed. The gunman struck the older driver and forced him down again. Glenn rose, furious, holding only a blank separator page he believed was the record. Lena clutched her shoulder and kept her eyes lowered. Darius had not freed anyone. He had preserved the audit trail. Raul ordered the transfer started. The yard tractor backed the white trailer toward Bay 3 while Darius's legitimate trailer remained open. The blue-strap pallet came into view through the rear doors, its labels ordinary and its placement wrong. Glenn drove the forklift. His hands were unsteady. He raised the pallet too quickly, clipped the threshold, and tore more of the blue strap loose. Malik watched the strip drag across the concrete. Rico noticed. "What are you looking at?" "Nothing." "You keep saying that." Malik's fear sharpened into anger. "Because you keep asking stupid questions." Rico pressed the pistol harder against him. Darius said, "Rico." The gunman looked over. "Raul needs the boy alive to clear the gate. Maybe he needs him scared. He is scared." Malik looked at Darius, offended and relieved at once. Darius continued, "The rest is for you." Raul said, "Move the pallet." Glenn pushed forward. The forklift crossed the open yard carrying the blue-strap stack. The bright band passed beneath the lights like a line drawn through every lie Glenn had told. Lena watched it. So did Mara through binoculars from a gap beyond the fence. Darius studied the transfer path. Glenn had to turn between the scale barriers and the rear of Darius's trailer. The lane was barely wide enough with people positioned where Raul had placed them. Darius had moved the civilians left earlier. Now they were outside the forklift's turn radius and within 3 steps of the office rear door. He looked at Lena and then at the door hinge. She followed his gaze. The next time the reefer unit cycled, its compressor roared loud enough to swallow a short sentence. Darius said, "When the lights go, take them inside." As the forklift turned, Darius called, "Lower it." Glenn ignored him. "The wrap catches that line. You lose the load." Raul shouted, "Lower it." Glenn jerked the control. The pallet dipped, then swayed. The loose blue strap snagged the hanging extension line. The work lamps snapped sideways. One shattered against the dock bumper, and the bay lights died with a hard click. Half the yard dropped into darkness. The main poles remained on, but the corridor beside the office became a tunnel of moving shadows. Lena pulled the older driver through the rear door. The man in coveralls followed, dragging the first. The guard fired one shot into the concrete, more panic than aim. The sound cracked across the yard. Mara's stage units held position. She heard someone on radio ask permission to enter. "Negative," she said. "Hostage still with Rico." "Hold." Darius moved toward Malik, but Raul stepped into his path with a pistol raised. "You did that." "Your broker did." Glenn abandoned the forklift and ran toward the office. Raul saw him leaving the pallet suspended in the lane. "Get back," Raul shouted. Glenn kept running. Rico turned his head toward the darkness, and Malik acted. He did not try to overpower a grown gunman. He dropped his weight, twisted out of the grip on his collar, and rolled beneath the raised side of the scale barrier exactly where Darius had told him to stay left. Rico caught only fabric. Malik's shirt tore, and he landed hard behind concrete. Darius crossed the distance before Rico recovered. He did not strike for revenge. He drove into Rico's arms, turning the pistol away from Malik and forcing both men against the side of the trailer. The weapon fell beneath the chassis. Rico fought with raw strength and panic. Darius used position, balance, and the fact that Rico kept looking for the gun instead of the boy. "Run to Lena!" Darius shouted. Malik crawled toward the office door. The guard stepped from the shadows to cut him off. The older driver in the red cap slammed the door outward, catching the guard's arm. Lena pulled Malik inside. The door shut. For the first time all night, every civilian except Darius was behind a wall. Raul fired into the air and ordered everyone to stop. Caesar froze beside the tractor. Rico broke away from Darius and reached beneath the trailer for his pistol. Darius kicked it farther into darkness, then stepped back with empty hands. Raul aimed at him. "Kneel." Darius did not. The word had lost its power. Raul's face showed that he knew it. "You think the police will save you?" Darius listened. Beyond the fence, no sirens, no shouted commands. Mara had understood. "They are not here for me," he said. Caesar whispered, "They are here." Rico looked toward the gate. "You don't know that." "I know how he talks," Caesar said. "He is placing us. He has been placing us all night." Raul turned on him, then stopped being placed. Caesar backed toward the white trailer. "We should surrender." Rico called him a coward. Caesar pointed at Darius's shoulder. "My uncle saw what was left after Breaker 6 came through the coast house. They took one witness, and the whole route fell. This man has done the same thing here. The logs, the radio, the strap. He does not need to beat us. He only needs everything to remain when police arrive." Raul heard it and hated Cesar for saying it aloud. He shot the tire beside Cesar. The blast drove everyone down. Cesar stumbled backward and fell, unhurt, but stunned. Rico seized the moment to grab the pistol beneath the trailer. Darius saw the movement and shouted, Raul, he has Malik's line. Raul turned instinctively toward Rico. It was only a fraction, but it revealed that Raul no longer trusted his own gunmen to control fire around the hostage. Rico rose with the weapon and aimed at the office window. "Bring the kid out," Raul said. "Lower it." "No, he's controlling you." Rico pointed at Darius with his other hand. "A tattoo made you scared." Rico moved toward the office. Darius stepped into his path. Rico smiled. "Now you'll fight." Darius's voice stayed low. "You will not point that at the boy." Rico swung the pistol toward him. Before he could fire, the white trailer shifted behind them. Glenn, trying to escape in the yard tractor, had backed into the suspended forklift mast. The blue-strapped pallet slid off the forks and dropped onto the concrete with a crash. Cases split. Hidden within the ordinary freight, sealed packages and electronic tracking tags scattered into the light. Glenn stared at what he had exposed. Mara saw it from beyond the fence. Evidence confirmed. Broker and yard tractor. Hostages secured in office except Darius. Move on my command. Raul looked from the cargo to Glenn and understood the broker had not only failed to erase the route, he had displayed it. Glenn accelerated toward the east service gate. The yard tractor was small, powerful, and badly aligned. It clipped the open gate, bounced off the post, and stalled sideways across the access lane. The route Raul had planned for escape closed under his own broker's panic. Mara gave the command. White lights flooded the perimeter from two directions. State units sealed the frontage road. Lawful responders entered through the equipment lot and the main gate, using vehicles as cover while announcing themselves. The sudden brightness turned every shadow hard. "Drop the weapons!" Caesar raised his hands immediately. The guard near the office door did the same. Rico grabbed Darius around the neck and put the pistol against his side. "Back off!" he shouted toward the lights. Darius could not stop both men by strength. He did not try. He looked at Caesar. "Parking brake." Caesar understood. He lunged into the open cab and pulled the tractor brake before Raul could climb in. Air released with a heavy mechanical sigh. The rig settled in place, no longer ready to move. Raul struck Caesar with the pistol and dragged him down, but the delay allowed a state unit to block the nose of the truck. Rico tightened his hold on Darius. "Tell them to move." Darius spoke toward Mara's position. "Office secure. Malik inside. Do not rush Rico." Rico jerked him backward. "Shut up." Mara's amplified voice came from behind a patrol door. "Darius, we hear you. Rico, no one is advancing. Put the weapon down and walk away." Hearing his name from law enforcement made Rico flinch. Darius felt it. Raul shouted, "Use him. Get to the gate." Rico began dragging Darius toward the SUV. Raul followed, using them as moving cover. The main gate was blocked by the black SUV and two patrol units beyond it. The path narrowed between Darius's trailer and the scale house. Darius let Rico pull him until they reached the edge of the spill. Then he stopped. "Move," Rico hissed. Darius looked at Raul. "Your brother made the same mistake." Raul's eyes narrowed. "What mistake?" "He believed the witness was the operation." "What was?" "The route." Raul glanced toward the blocked gates before he could stop himself. Darius continued. "You keep seeing people as cargo. Move this one, threaten that one, erase a name, replace a seal. But routes remember. Drivers remember. Machines remember. Tonight your broker, your trailer, your logs, your calls, and your own men all led to you." Rico shouted, "Stop talking." "What happened at the coast?" Raul demanded. Darius felt Eli beside him in memory, not dying now, but alive in the last clear moment before the stairwell. Eli had looked at the witness and said, "Nobody gets left because somebody powerful decided they were disposable." "We brought a man home." Darius said. My brother said one of you did not come home. He was wrong. Raul almost smiled. Turner died. His reason came home with us. Rico tried to drag him again. His boot landed on the loose blue strap. The material slid beneath him. His balance broke for half a second. Darius moved only enough. He trapped Rico's gun arm against his own body, turned with the fall, and drove both of them to the concrete behind the trailer tire. The pistol discharged into the ground. Responders did not fire because Darius had taken the line below their view and away from Raul. Rico lost the weapon. Darius pinned his wrist until a trooper reached them and pulled Rico away in handcuffs. Raul ran, not toward the gate, toward the open rear of Darius's trailer. He climbed inside and pulled the door behind him, choosing cold darkness and stacked freight over surrender. The move surprised everyone except Darius. Raul had spent the entire night treating trailers as places to hide responsibility. When every route closed, he entered one. Mara approached Darius, weapon lowered, but ready. You hurt? Later. Malik is secure. Darius closed his eyes for one beat. The words reached a place nothing else could. Mara said, Raul is inside. We can wait. Darius looked at the reefer monitor. The trailer temperature had risen from the open doors, then started dropping after Raul closed himself in. The interior had no hidden exit. The load filled most of the space. Raul had one pistol, shrinking room, and no hostage. Wait, Darius agreed. Inside the office, Malik pressed both hands to the glass. Darius saw him and raised one hand. Malik raised his in return. 5 minutes passed, then 7. The reefer cycled. The white noise covered quiet movement around the trailer. Mara called Raul by name and told him the yard was secure, his crew was in custody, and no route remained. She promised medical care and a lawful arrest if he came out unarmed. Raul shouted from inside, Cole, tell them who I am. Darius stood beside the rear bumper. Raul Vega, tell them what my family did to yours. You did nothing to my family until tonight. Your friend, Eli, was killed rescuing someone your brother meant to erase. You do not own his death. Silence answered. That sentence broke the oldest chain in Darius's life. For 12 years he had allowed men like Raul to occupy Eli's memory because their violence had shaped the final moment. But Eli belonged to his mother, his teammates, the witness he saved, and the promise Darius kept in the freight yard. Not to the Vega family. The trailer doors opened slowly. Raul stepped out with empty hands raised. His pistol lay behind him on the floor. The man who had forced Darius to kneel now descended carefully under a line of lawful weapons. He looked once at the trident tattoo, and the silence returned. Not the silence of mystery this time, but recognition completed. Mara handcuffed him. Glenn Porter was pulled from the stalled yard tractor. He tried to say Raul had forced him into everything. Lena came from the office carrying the printed gate log and the torn blue strap Malik had passed her. No, she said. He changed the assignment before they arrived. His credential opened the load. His calls moved the pallet. And this came off the freight he tried to hide. Mara photographed the strap where it was, then placed it with the paper record. Federal agents documented the replacement seals, the open-door events, the white trailer lease, Glenn's portal access, and the mismatch between Darius's manifest and the hidden pallet. The reefer telemetry showed when each door opened. The CB recording preserved the coercive movement call. The yard printer preserved the original check-in. The blue strap linked the pallet at Bay 4 to the packages scattered in the lane. Glenn's digital lies had met physical facts. Malik came out of the office after a medic checked him. His torn shirt hung from one shoulder. He walked toward Darius, stopped 2 feet away, and looked at the tattoo. You really were a SEAL. Darius nodded. And Breaker 6? That was a team call sign. Raul knew it. His family knew what happened after we took a witness out of a bad place. Did you kill his brother? No. Darius answered without hesitation. Testimony and evidence ended his route. Other choices ended the man. Malik looked toward Raul in the patrol car. He was scared of you. He was scared of what he remembered. Same difference. Darius thought of Raul saying the same thing about guilt. No, it matters. Malik's anger returned, quieter now. Why didn't you tell us? Darius looked at the broken line beneath the trident. Because one man didn't come home the way he should have, and I thought silence was how I paid for it. Eli. Darius nodded again. Malik stepped closer. You got me home. The words hit harder than Rico's fist. Darius put one hand on the back of Malik's neck and pulled him into an embrace. For a moment, the yard, the lights, and the officers disappeared. There was only the boy breathing against his shoulder and the fact that this time the protected person was alive in his arms. Mara waited until they separated. I need a statement when you're ready. Darius looked around at the evidence markers, the damaged trailers, and Raul's crew being placed into separate vehicles. I'm ready. You should get checked first. I can do both. She almost smiled. That sounds like the man I remember. Darius glanced at her. You heard the phrase. I heard you change it. Had to fit the turn. I figured. Thank you for waiting. Mara looked toward the office where the civilians had sheltered. You told us where not to rush. That saved people. The official response continued until dawn. Legitimate law enforcement secured every vehicle and separated every witness. Federal agents tied the freight records to other suspicious transfers already under review. The evidence did not magically erase a criminal network in one night, and no one pretended it did. But the seizure exposed a route, a corrupt broker, false carrier assignments, and the methods used to bury illegal cargo inside legitimate commerce. More importantly, everyone in the yard survived. Lena returned Malik's strip of blue pallet strap after investigators photographed it, but Darius told her to keep it with the case materials. Malik had already proven what it meant. He had noticed the clue, protected it, and passed it to the right person instead of trying to become a hero alone. You did well, Darius told him. Malik looked surprised. You never say that. I should. As sunrise colored the edge of the industrial lots, a reporter outside the perimeter asked an officer what had happened. The officer gave no details. Later, the event would be reduced to a brutal sentence that sounded almost too clean for the fear inside it. Cartel gunmen forced a black truck driver to kneel. His Navy SEAL tattoo made their boss go silent. But the tattoo had not rescued anyone by itself. It had only reminded Raul of a discipline Darius had never truly lost. The rescue came from everything the criminals mocked. A driver's attention to seals, temperature logs, tire pressure, radio language, gate angles, pallet straps, and the quiet duty to deliver living people home. 3 weeks later, Darius's rig came out of the repair shop with a new passenger window, straightened door frame, and a patch of primer where Rico's blows had scarred the cab. The company offered him time off. Renee ordered him to take it. Darius spent 11 days at her house, longer than he had stayed anywhere off the road in years. He fixed the porch light, replaced a leaking faucet, and sat through whole dinners without finding an excuse to check the truck. Malik did not ask questions on the first day. On the second, he asked about training. On the third, he asked about Eli. Darius answered what he could. He told Malik that courage was usually quieter than movies made it look, that fear did not disqualify anyone from being useful, and that the hardest part of rescue was refusing the move that felt satisfying when it endangered somebody else. He did not describe weapons or raids. He described Eli making coffee strong enough to damage metal, singing badly on long watches, and carrying extra candy for frightened people they might have to move. He described a friend rather than a final wound. Renee listened from the kitchen doorway. When Darius finished, she said, "You could have told us some of this years ago." "I know." "That all you have?" "No." He looked at her. "I'm sorry." It was not enough to replace 12 years of distance, but it was a door left open instead of closed. Malik chose to finish the summer route. Renee objected until Malik said he was not going because his uncle had been a SEAL. He was going because somebody needed to make sure Darius drank coffee before it turned cold. Darius said that was not a qualification. Malik packed anyway. Their first load after Mesa Verde was ordinary refrigerated freight headed west at dawn. No change broker instructions, no black SUV, no blue strap around the wrong pallet. Darius still checked every seal twice. Malik still watched mirrors. The difference was that silence in the cab no longer felt like a wall. Sometimes it was simply two people looking at the same road. Before pulling out, Darius opened the glove box. Beneath old registration papers lay Eli Turner's challenge coin in a small cloth pouch. For years he had kept it hidden there, close enough to carry and far enough not to see. He turned the coin over in his palm. One side bore the old unit emblem. The other carried a scratched sentence Eli used whenever a plan collapsed. "Bring the living home." Darius set the coin in the shallow tray near the dashboard. Malik looked at it. "You sure?" "No," Darius said, "but it stays there." They rolled onto the interstate as morning opened across the desert. Trucks joined from feeder roads, each carrying sealed loads, private worries, and destinations printed on paper. Darius felt the familiar pull of distance, but it no longer seemed like escape. The road could be a way forward if he stopped asking it to erase what was behind him. The federal case continued without requiring Darius to become anything other than a witness. Glenn Porter's records exposed more false assignments. The trailer logs confirmed the timing. Lena's printed gate sheet survived every attempt to challenge it. The blue pallet strap, preserved with the cargo evidence, remained the small, bright detail that connected the physical transfer to the digital fraud. Raul's name carried less weight each time another fact entered the record. Darius did not visit the jail. He did not need Raul to apologize, explain, or fear him again. Justice was not the look on Raul's face when the tattoo appeared. Justice was Malik asleep safely in the passenger seat, Lena back at a legitimate dispatch desk, the other drivers home with their families, and the evidence still speaking after every threat had gone quiet. Near sunset, Malik woke and saw Eli's coin catching the last light from the windshield. "Do you miss him every day?" Darius considered lying out of habit. "Yes." "Does it get easier?" "No, it gets different." Malik nodded as if that answer made more sense than comfort would have. Darius drove on, one hand steady on the wheel, the faded trident covered by a clean work shirt but no longer hidden from the person beside him. The highways would keep stretching. Freight would keep moving. Men like Raul would keep mistaking quiet work for weakness and ordinary people for easy targets. But roads remembered patterns, witnesses remembered faces, and tattoos sometimes carried warnings older than the men arrogant enough to ignore them. They forced him to kneel because they saw a black truck driver they could break. By sunrise, Raul Vega understood that Darius Cole's tattoo was not decoration. It was a warning for men his family had already lost to.